Hi, I'm Marty Shupak. Welcome to Shupak Sports and our Shupak Sports YouTube channel. If you're seeing this on YouTube, please subscribe. If you're involved in sports at any age, from T-ball all the way up to college recruiting, we'll be having 10,000 video clips coming. They come in daily, and I promise you they will help you with your son or daughter's athletic career. We'll try to get you on the right foot, so to speak. And this is, if you're watching, this is T-ball practice template number 15. I'm going to go over some basic hitting drills. Some are really basic, and if you might have been through this already, but bear with me. I'll get to a couple of advanced drills. Keep in mind, I like to give subtle hints as I go through, so listen closely. And as I said, please subscribe. And by the way, when you're addressing your T-ball team, a couple of things. Number one, make sure, and I've gone over this before, very important, you, the coach or parent, you're facing the sun. If you have your team facing the sun, they're going to be doing this, even if they have caps on, and they're only going to be getting like half of what you're saying. That's number one. Number two, you can go down on one knee so your eye level is at the same eye level as your players. It has a very good effect when you're meeting with your team. And the third thing, and I've said this before, every practice or during the practice, have at least one, maybe two designated bases. When you talk to your team, you'll say, okay, everybody at first base, and then lead your team to a jog, and that's where you talk to them at first base, and rotate bases. And that's a good way also that they learn the bases. Okay, let's get right into it. The first drill I'm going to show you is a very basic drill for you parents that just have kids and you're enthusiastic about baseball or football. You might want to try this. It's the kickball bowling drill. And all I'm doing is I'm rolling a kickball or a plastic ball, okay, to the player, and he just has to hit it. It's really a basic drill. It works out well. And you're giving your son or daughter a chance at hitting a moving object. Now, you could do this when they're very young. And also, you could set this up as a game. Have them hit it into the field, and you could adjust the rules where you could shorten first base, or you could keep first base, and all they have to do is run to first base. And if they're safe, they get a run. If they're out, then the next player's up. So that's the kickball bowling hit drill. I like to use, you could use a regular T-ball bat, but I like the big red plastic bats on this. Okay, the next drill, and let me keep it on the clipboard so it doesn't flip. It's a very similar drill. It's called the kickball bounce drill. And what I'm doing is the same thing. And here it's showing a soccer ball. Don't use a soccer ball. Again, use a kickball or one of those plastic big balls, and you bounce it, and the player has to hit it after it bounces. Again, even though in T-ball, the players are hitting a stationary ball or sphere off a tee, this is a change of pace, and you're challenging your team on this, okay? And one of the things I want to emphasize, whether you coach in T-ball or you move on to coach baseball or softball, this is a great drill, what I call a parking lot drill. And you could set this up into a game. Now, when I say parking lot, I've gone to the field sometimes where, for whatever reason, I was scheduled to have a practice, but the maintenance crew, they had emergency maintenance. So in our league, we only had one field. We had to move our practice to the parking lot. You could change a negative into a positive. If you have in your head a few parking lot drills, it's a great idea to do one or two parking lot practices during the season. you're showing your young kids and you're showing the parents creativity and flexibility. Now, obviously, if you're having a parking lot practice, you can't do any sort of sliding drills, anything like that, and you have to adjust the balls. If you're coaching at a higher level of baseball or softball, you have to adjust the type of balls you use, whether it's a tennis ball or a plastic wiffle ball or pickleball. But don't be afraid to have a parking lot practice. And I even encourage you to schedule 1 or 2 every season. Okay, so that's the kickball bounce hit drill. Okay. The next drill is kind of a eye-hand coordination where the player controls the bat. It's called the Mr. T drill. Okay. And what I do is we take a wiffle ball bat and I tape a rope at the end. Let me just take this off the clipboard. Just as you see it, and you adjust the space and what you're telling your son, daughter, or player, and you could do this in a team practice with a station, okay? You see there's a space between the tee and the rope. You want your player to swing the bat, and you don't want it to hit the tee or to hit the rope. What's great about this little exercise, if you do it with a team, you know the ability of your players. You could adjust the space of the rope, lifting it up, so it makes it very achievable. And remember, in T-ball, we want to encourage success. Our number one goal in T-ball is to make it a positive experience so the players come back the following year. You don't want to overemphasize high-level competition. Trust me, there's plenty of time for that. And a lot of times I get emails and notes that I go through these T-ball drills and different tips. And it's like, I believe in participation trophies and I'm not that competitive. Let me tell you something. When you're across from me on a baseball or softball field, you won't find a more competitive coach within the rules. That I promise you. So this is the Mr. T drill. It's really a bat control drill, very achievable to succeed. And remember, it's good for the players to focus where they're swinging the bat. Okay, the next drill, all we're doing in T-ball is we're showing the players, giving the players, and by the way, stick around at the end, I'm going to have an advanced tip. Another form of hitting a ball off something like a tee. And what I did here, it's the cone hit drill. And I'll take this off. And what I'm doing is I'm just showing the kids a different type of prop. You could go to the home centers, the local home center. You buy a construction cone. You don't want to buy a small cone like they use in soccer. You want to buy something that it's a little bit taller. And if it's still too short, you can put it on a box or you can put it on a cinder block. And we're showing the kids a different type of prop. We're showing them creativity and we're showing them a different look. Now, obviously, a cone is not adjustable. So the players are going to be different sizes, but you just can't help it. You want to show creativity. You want to show a different look. Again, this is the cone hit drill. All right. The next drill is a little more advanced, and you can't do this your first practice. When a player gets older, you want them to swing what I call a good high to low swing. All right. So somewhere in the middle of the season, you could take 2 tees, an empty tee and the tee with the ball, and you line them up where you're supposed to go. All right. And he swings the bat over the tee that's taller, and the ball is supposed to hit the ball on the tee. He's swinging high to low, which is really the swing you want to teach players. A lot of players swing up, which is not the way to do it. You want them to swing high to low. This is a more advanced drill. A lot of players, if you do this drill, they're going to just start hitting this tee. You could have them do it slowly. And again, you could follow one of my past tips where you put a sticker of a giraffe or an elephant on the ball, and that helps out the player to focus on it. Again, we're teaching a high to low swing. It's the high to low drill with 2 batting tees. Okay, all right, let me just go over a couple of tips. If you've seen a lot of these videos before, I've repeated some of them. I just want to go over quickly for some of the new people that are watching this for the first time. Very important, if you're going to be coaching every year after T-ball and including T-ball, make sure your players have an up-to-date eye and hearing test. Very, very important. Twice in my coaching career in 30 years, I took 2 players different times, and I just saw something was wrong, and they ended up getting contact. One got contacts, one got goggles, and they were different ball players. One player in particular, I noticed he was making errors at first base during night games, and he had, I guess they call it a stigmatism or something, whatever it was. The parents took him, and when he finally got his goggles, he was a different player. Get a hearing test too, all right? And you want to go over this in the parents' meeting, which I'll touch upon in just a second. But I always tell the story about the hearing test. Vince Lombardi, the great football coach, his last year coaching the Washington Redskins, he had a running back, Larry Brown. He thought he was an incredibly talented player, but he noticed in reviewing films, he was a hair slower getting off the ball and hitting the hole. Sure enough, he had Larry Brown take a hearing test. And at the time, you had to go through, get a special waiver from the league. They put hearing aids in his helmet, and he was a different ball player. He ended up leading the league in rushing, I believe, 2 or 3 times. So make sure you get an eye test and a hearing test. And as you continue coaching, after 5 and 6-year-old T-balls, if you're at 7, 8, 9, 10, or if you're like 13, 14, if you're a high school coach, it's so important. It really is. Again, you want to have that parents meeting, and a lot of you people have been emailing me that you want to know what to go over in the parents meeting. I will have a special module coming up as to what I think you have to go over in the parents meeting. All right, let's get back. We just have like 2 more drills to go. Then I have a couple of advanced tips for all you coaches and parents that are going to continue coaching. I don't have the sample here, but let me describe. Years ago, I would use what I call rag balls, where I'd buy a box of cloth rags, clean ones. I'd wrap it up with 1-inch and 2-inch masking tape. And you don't want to wrap it up too tight. You want to keep it a little loose. And the reason for that is when you use the rag balls and you're tossing in the toss drill, which I'll go over in a second, if you're doing it against a wall at the school, if it's too tight, it could bounce back. But take a rag, roll it up, tie it in a knot, and wrap it around with 1-inch and 2-inch masking tape. And I used it for years and years. This drill, when the players begin to get older or in the midseason, they want to do different things than just hitting off a tee. So this is the toss drill where the coach will be at an angle, and he'll have a bucket of, I use rag balls. You could use wiffle balls. You could use pickle balls. The only reason why I say don't use hard balls, I was doing it one time when I was a young, inexperienced coach, doing the toss drill with a hard ball. And if you know, on the fences, there's a bar across the middle. And of course, I didn't check with my league what the policy is. Most leagues, you really can't do a toss drill with a hard ball. But nevertheless, we were doing a toss drill with my son and his friend, and the ball hit the bar. It came back, hit him in the eye, and we spent a few hours in the hospital, which thank God he was okay. But the point is, number one, check with your league, see what the policy is about hitting against the screen. I'm sure almost all leagues say you can't do it with hard balls, but see what they say. If they say you can't do it with anything, a rag ball and a wiffle ball, which I don't understand why they would do that, you just have to look for a wall. But this is a good toss drill, and you could do this at home. Be creative too, all right? Any drill that I do, if you could make it better, please make it better. All right. And just as a bonus, that's about it before we get to the advanced drill. As you approach the summer, I did this with my grandkids. Take one of those big red bats. You're in a bathing suit, and it's called hit the water spray, where you hold the hose with your thumb when it's on and you let it out. And as it comes out intermittently, they have to hit the spray, and all they're doing is swinging the bat constantly. It's a summer fun hitting drill. All right, let's get, some of you are going to be continue to coach. I'm going to show you a couple of advanced tips. You'll probably forget it, but if you can, if you're serious about coaching, I urge you all to continue coaching. And if you're not coaching, get involved with your son or daughter in baseball or softball. It'll be one of the most rewarding things you'll ever do. You'll be talking about it for the rest of your lives. And I promise you this, most of you can become head coaches for a team in youth baseball or softball. If you're not 100% comfortable and you don't want to be the person in charge, then try to be an assistant to a coach that you might think has a good reputation. But please get involved. There's nothing like it. Your kids will never forget it when they see you in the dugout with them. And I'll tell you, me personally, my father was always working. He, was a World War II veteran and started a family business, and he was hardly home. And I was still close to him, but the one great memory I have is one of the very few times he came down to my Little League game. They asked him to do the book, and what I remember is when he read the starting lineup and he read my name, it just had such a good feeling. I'll never forget that. All right, quickly, advanced tip. I'm huge as a coach with bunting and base running. And another hint, if you want to become a really good coach, practice bunting and base running. And I'm telling you, I don't mean practicing base running during a game, just telling the player when they reach third base what to do. There are drills, there are exercises, there are strategies you could do. And if you're serious about coaching, get involved in base running and bunting. You could get an extra 1 to 2 runs a game. And I promise you, you might be one of the only coaches to practice base running. But look for resources, after you're done with T-ball. What I tell people to do, and remember to tell your team if you're coaching, when you're giving them the bunt signal, sometimes young kids, 10, 11, 12-year-olds, when you give them the sign for a bunt, they think they have to bunt to the next pitch. And they'll either, if the ball is high, they'll bunt high. If it's low, they'll put the bat low. You don't want them to do that. You want to emphasize to your team, if they're bunting, you want them to bunt at a ball that's buntable, all right? If it's a little low, you want the bat kind of straight out. And I like my players to have the meat of the bat, the sweet spot, a little higher. If the sweet spot's lower and they hit it, it's just going to go foul behind you. I like it a little higher. And if it's a little bit low, you want to bend the knees a little, but you have to practice that. Remember, that's an advanced tip. Teach your team, when you give them the bunt sign, they don't have to bunt at it unless it's a buntable ball. Another bunting strategy, which you won't hear at a lot of places, I'm a big believer, depending upon who is at bat, how well he bunts, you'll see as you coach in baseball and softball, when it's a bunting situation and the player has 2 strikes, the coach will tell the third baseman to move back, thinking he's not going to bunt with 2 strikes, because if you bunt with 2 strikes and it's a foul, he's out. I give signs to certain players, certain situations, to bunt with 2 strikes. It's a great strategy. If he misses, he misses. You live with it. But most of the times I've been successful. So keep that in the back of your mind too. The next advanced tip for all you future coaches, and let me see what it is. If you have a rundown, you're going to be involved in a lot of rundowns between third and home. And I learned this the hard way. Teach your first baseman to come home. Because if the catcher and third baseman are involved in the rundown, eventually, if there's too many throws, the base runner will go right by the catcher when he doesn't have the ball. Keep in mind, too, in rundowns, the best number of throws to make is 0. The second best is 1 throw, okay? And the term I want to give you, if you could remember this in 2 or 3 years when you're coaching your son or daughter, when the opposing team is in a rundown, you want to get them in what I call a sprint mode. Once they're sprinting, it's hard for them to stop, all right? So those are the tips. And the other thing I'll say about rundowns, I've seen a lot of coaches teach their team, when the player is in a rundown, run him back to the place he came from. Don't let him advance. I think it's bad coaching. I believe if you practice correctly, rundowns are really a gift from the baseball gods to get an easy out, okay? So those are the tips, advanced tips. Remember the drills we did, and remember the other tips I mentioned, and I will get into having a parents meeting. Now, as far as products, these drills came from this book, T-Ball Drills. Get it at Amazon. Check with your library. Don't go out and buy a book if you don't have it. If you don't have the money, I'm sorry. I don't want you to spend money you don't have. As far as the advanced strategies or drills I showed you, if you're going to continue to coach baseball or softball, and the drills in this book, they're just as good for softball. I should have named the championship baseball and softball drills. It's another good book. So I urge you to look for those 2 books. Again, you don't have to purchase it if it's going to put you behind the 8 ball. You don't want to build up any sort of credit card balance. So that's going to be it again for Shupak Sports. And I'm Marty Shupak. Please subscribe, and please share this with your league, share this with your parents, and share this with your friends and everyone else. So thanks for joining in. Until next time.